Hey everyone, it's Ben from River Surf Lab, here to talk about boards that I surfed on Salida Scout Wave in the 2023 season. But first, let's talk about the wave itself. This is a shortboard specific wave that does not require paddling to catch it or a pop-up to stand up on your board. You literally stand directly onto your board and start surfing the wave. And with that, it allows you to surf much smaller boards at lower volumes than a wave that would require you to paddle and catch it and then pop up. So all the boards that I've surfed are lower volume. One thing to note is that I've heard that the wave has changed between 2023 and the 2024 seasons. So this will give you an idea of what boards worked well for me last year, but if the wave shifted, some of these choices may change this year, and I'll make another video at the end of this season. Starting with my least favorite board I surfed at Scout Wave last year, we've got the Libtech Hydra. And if you watched or read my review of this board, you know that it is too slow for most river waves, and Scout is no exception to that. I found myself having to stand fairly far forward on this board to keep it on the wave, and from a further forward stance, I couldn't turn it as well, and I felt like I just had to pump to keep the board on the wave. It just wasn't very fun to surf. Now, the rest of the boards that I'm going to talk about all surf the wave fairly well, and that's because Salida is such a good wave that you can surf a wide variety of boards on it, and it really just boils down to personal preference and skill level when it comes to choosing a board. But for me personally, my next favorite board was the Bomb Drop. And this is a foam board from Badfish, and it is what I would recommend for anyone who's just learning to river surf on the Scout Wave. It's durable, foam construction, it's cheap, and it's easy to demo before you buy. As far as the performance goes, I found that it felt a little bit slow for me. I had a hard time dialing in the fins so that I could turn it really well, and also slide it a little bit and spin it. I couldn't quite figure out how to get that dialed in on this board. And this isn't a board that I typically surf at Salida, but I wanted to try it just so I could let you guys know how it surfed and recommend it if you're a beginner. Next up, we have a weird one. It's the TL Crusty Booger. And I didn't think I'd even be able to surf this board at all at Scout Wave, but I found that I could surf it great. I was able to turn it super well, carve it super well, felt very, very fast. The one thing I couldn't figure out how to do on this board is get the fin and my technique so that I could carve and throw a lot of spray as well as spin it. And I think that's just because this board is so wide that I can't get a lot of weight over the rails, and so to keep it from sliding I have to add bigger fins, and when I add bigger fins I can't spin it as well. Still a lot of fun to ride, very interesting and unique board, but wasn't my favorite to surf at Salida. My next favorite board is the Libtech Hydro Snapper. And this is actually my favorite board to surf at lower water at Scout Wave. I found that having something that's nice and wide, very little rocker, a hard, fast rail throughout most of the board was really nice at those lower flows where you're really trying to keep all the speed that you can generate on that wave when it doesn't have a lot of power. And the other thing that's nice at low flows is that it's durable, so it's harder to ding, and if you do ding these Libtech boards, you don't have to fix them. They won't absorb water. Super nice. Yeah, so at low water, this was my favorite board, but I found, at least for last year, that somewhere around 700, 800, 900 CFS, this board started to get too slippery for me. And I think that has to do with these sharp rails throughout the board. Is once the wave got steep and tall, when I tried to pump it, it would just want to slide out on me. But below that, even below 1,000, this board worked fairly well and worked really well compared to other boards at the lower flows, below 700. I gotta pause the video right here because I forgot to mention a board that I surfed at Scout, the Libtech Whirlpool 5.4. This is a great board, super user-friendly, forgiving, easy to learn on. This would actually be a great board for someone who's graduating from a foam board or an inflatable and want to get a hard board, but still want something that's fairly easy and will be durable and won't ding. This is also a great board to learn 360s on. On my third surf ever on this board, I was able to do a backside 360 first try, and immediately after that on the same wave, a frontside 360 on the first try. The next three boards I'm going to talk about all surf Scout Wave extremely well. I had to choose some order to talk about these boards in, and I'll talk about a little bit of why I chose this specific order, but in general, all these boards are amazing for Scout Wave, and if you were to pick any one of these boards for Scout Wave, you're likely to be very happy with it. In third place, we have the Corridor Craw, C-R-A-W, like crawfish. This was the fastest board that I surfed at Scout. I found that I could make turns higher up on the wave, almost where it felt like I was behind the wave when I started to make my turn, and still have enough speed to get over the wave and back onto the face. And I even had people commenting about how it looked like I was going to flush off the back of the wave at the top of my turns, but this had so much speed that it would just drive off the top of the wave and come back down. It was noticeably the fastest board out of these three. I also was surprised at how easy I could spin it, even set up as a quad. This is one of the only boards I feel like I can do that on. I put it at third place because I feel like it's just a little bit short. This is the 4.4 version. I felt like I wanted just a little bit more length in front of my front foot, because when I pumped it super hard, I felt like it almost sinked the board on my pumps. The other thing to note is this is probably the most fragile board that I surf at Scout Wave. I ended up with a couple of dings on it. It definitely didn't feel like it held up as well as the other boards, but still very, very fun board to ride at Scout Wave. In second place, we have the Badfish Wave Farmer. This should be a familiar shape if you've ever been to Scout Wave. There's a lot of these out there. Badfish is headquartered in Salida, so this is a board that you're going to see a lot of on that wave. I feel like this board is a board I would recommend for anyone who's gotten past the beginner and learning phase of river surfing at Scout Wave. So if you're able to catch the wave, 95% of the time, you're able to make turns, this would be a good choice. This is the 410 version, the shortest of the three lengths. You could definitely size up if you're looking for something a little bit easier to surf, or you're a bigger surfer. I found, for me personally, this board was the easiest to do tricks on. I think a lot of that has to do with this soft rail and the amount of tail and nose rocker. It just allowed, me to spin it without anything getting catchy and grabby anywhere around the board. Whenever I was trying a new trick, a new spin or something weird, I would grab this board, dial it on this board before I ever try it on a different board. This is the slowest of the top three boards I'm going to talk about, though. I think that has to do with the amount of tail rocker that it has in it. That being said, despite it being the slowest, I felt like I could pump this board the hardest. And I think a lot of that has to do with the thickness of this rail. It really felt like it wanted to stick to the face of the wave. I could pump it super hard and get more speed out of it, even though it felt a bit slower than the other boards. And my number one favorite board to surf at Salida Scout Wave in 2023 was the Peterson Tomahawk. This is a 4.9. It sits kind of in between the Craw and Wave Farmer in terms of speed. Was not as fast as the Craw, faster than the Wave Farmer. Couldn't pump this as well as I could on the Wave Farmer, I think due to the thinner rails, but it was fast enough where I didn't feel like I needed to pump it. Where this really shone was in the turns. It made such snappy turns as well as super quick spins. I felt like my spins on this board were almost out of control when I was first getting them dialed in. I had to learn them on the Wave Farmer and then graduate to this board. And that's really why I enjoyed surfing this board so much, because I felt like it really pushed me and my skills as a river surfer to improve. Like I said, all three of these boards are excellent boards to surf at Scout, especially at the higher flows when the wave is taller and steeper. Last year that was above 1,000 CFS. In the 700 to 1,000 CFS range, these boards were still very fun to ride, but I could also ride the Libtech Hydro Snapper, and when the flows dropped below 700, that was a board I preferred over these three. Now, who knows what the wave's going to be like this year. If it is flatter like people are saying, I would probably recommend the Corridor Crawl and the Libtech Hydro Snapper as faster boards that might work if the wave stays flat this year. If it does stay flat this year, I'll do another one of these board comparisons at the end of the season to let you know what I enjoyed surfing this year. Thanks.